if you have the budget and the ability to implement the AV systems, even sound, audio, video, all of it in the beginning of your stages of opening the venue, that's when it's the cheapest. That's when you can run the right wiring that has to be done in the building. You can have a certified electricians come in and put the right power systems in place. You can run your data cable, your power cable, all that through the ducts, all that through hidden places. That's a lot harder to do after the fact. So this is a conversation that venue owner might have in the future. Do it in the beginning. It'll save you a lot of time, effort, and cost. Even if you don't implement the systems, you're ready when it does happen.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today on the Venue RX. I'm pumped to talk today about lighting and just a bunch of different topics. It's going to be good. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me on today. I'm super excited to be on this podcast.
Well, it's going to be awesome. We just before we popped on, we were talking how we bumped into each other at the bathroom, actually at Wedding MBA, right? That was pretty neat. You tell me a little bit about what you do. Your company is Enfuse Productions,
yes,
correct? Tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
So we kind of started during the COVID phase. I've done lighting for 20 years in the event space, and then during COVID, we didn't have jobs. So I was always been the tech guy. So everybody reached out to me and my best friend and was like, how do we stream? We had businesses, churches. We're like, we know a little bit about it. So we dove into it and they were like, well, this is a lucrative business when we have no jobs. So let's spend some money. And so we did. And then we tackled streaming. We learned codecs. We learned everything there was. We bought cameras. We did it all. And we were busy during COVID. Churches, gyms, we created automated systems for gyms, like where we didn't have to be there while they were streaming, all this stuff. And then people stopped wanting to stream, or it just kept rotating. And then things kind of started opening up. And then we jumped into the wedding world of streaming. And that's a whole nother topic. And it was a very interesting world, to say the least. So then from there, kind of streaming kind of became a thing. We got more into production, and we went into videography, photography for 2 seasons in the wedding industry. And then I jumped back into lighting kind of full time. It just was a good move money wise. And then the last 6 months, we're back trying to create this company again and try to create around lighting, video, audio, like everything in the wedding space, and trying to like educate people and try to help bring the industry to another level within like AV productions.
Totally. That's super neat. I'm glad you mentioned that, because we had a similar little foray into live streaming. Definitely not on the level that you guys did 100%, but I have a lot of appreciation for what you guys probably were doing.
Well, the funny story, we had the wedding planner was like, wait till the bride, like we want to do it on the like toast or whatever. Grandma's like, we're zooming grandma. Nobody knows grandma's like watching. Grandma logs off and goes to bed. She's like, it's 9 o'clock. Like, and then right before we reveal grandma to, on the screen, everything, like grandma's gone. It's like, we learned like, people log off at home. We learned that very fast.
Yeah. It's way easier to just click, end meeting rather than leave the actual event. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious. There were a lot of people that were, and obviously none of us knew what was happening during COVID, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and live streaming very much felt like the way to stay connected. And yes, there were so many companies that did even large scale live stream events. Do you think that there is a world that comes back, or that's really like a meaningful part of events moving forward, or just because of the nature of events, it is a together physically sort of thing?
We spent a lot of time and research into the hybrid world of events and how kind of that was a thing. And kind of we went into more of a post-streaming platform where it's not quite live, but it's uploaded the next day or that evening. But then also there's a new movement of like actual people playing back that day during the ceremony at the end of it. So that's kind of a thing. So I think there's a lot of like, in a different form of streaming, going to surface in the next couple of years. I think that's just our own personal opinion, but like I think the hybrid space, especially in corporate, it's become a thing. Or if somebody can't make it to the wedding and they're very important to the wedding, they can chime in through a video or through a live stream to the actual ceremony. So I think, yeah, I think there's definitely a direction that it could go that way. But the live streaming for weddings was very complicated because of the schedule. Nothing's on time, people log off. So I think a different form of live streaming, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the live streaming blurs the lines between a live event and then something that's recorded in a way. And you have that as a spectrum, kind of like if a movie or a documentary is one end of the spectrum and then actually being there in person is the other end. Right. It reminds me of Taylor Swift's, the tour that she did, and then it was all recorded, and then people could go watch it in theaters.
Yes.
That's kind of
crazy, like passive income,
Totally. And maybe not for someone's wedding because, that would have the most value to them and their immediate family, perhaps. But for other types of events, certainly there's a wide range of applications there.
Yeah, so in the corporate space, I do a lot of corporate lighting. There is a lot of like chimed in Zoom meetings, like with the speakers. A lot of times, it's like the speaker can't make it, so they're live via Zoom to the live audience. So yeah, definitely moving that direction in some aspects.
Yeah, it's definitely a practical application of that. Better to hop on that meeting and have a cool background like you do, right? Versus get on a plane, get the hotel, get the Uber, do all the other things. So tell me a little bit about the lighting, because I want to talk about lighting today in terms of venues and spaces, and just kind of how the folks who listen to this venue can use, or the folks who listen to this podcast can use lighting to their advantage. But give me a little bit of a sense of your background in lighting, like what jobs do you typically do? You mentioned corporate a little bit. And some concerts and stuff. Like, could you give us a background on what lighting?
I started around 20 years old. I went to college for music business, and then I went into lighting right after that, and worked for a mom and pop lighting company for, I don't know, somewhere 10 years. And then since the last 10, I've been working for the biggest of the biggest in the lighting industry, the biggest concerts. And from that aspect, I've done corporate weddings. Weddings are usually, the budget for weddings for that high end of lighting is, very rare. It's not as often. And then I've done touring with some A-list bands. I won't drop names, but I was on the biggest touring production of 2018 of of like just a production in general. And then since then, I've been with the same company for quite a while now. I travel every week, weekend warrior kind of stuff. And then, and I worked with churches for a long time and kind of consulted in that aspect, but I really love the wedding space. I think it's an awesome place, and I think it's beautiful, and like concerts are fun, but there's a really creativity in the wedding space, I think.
Well, and I'm curious. I mean, when I think of a concert versus a wedding or a wedding venue, I mean, it's got to be so much more intricate, choreographed, all of that for something like a concert. Is that right?
Yes and no. So like there's like if you work for like a mom and pop, that's what they call it in the event industry. There's times I've ran lights. I have no idea what the band is. I've never heard the band. I don't know who they are. It's it's like, say, a C-level band, or you're at a festival and they don't have a lighting guy, and the company, like the vendor, is the lighting people, and we call it punting the show, and you pretty much program to punt, and sometimes it ends up well and sometimes it doesn't. So then, but then on the other spectrum, like I just toured with Doja Cat. It's completely choreographed, completely timed. They call it time code. Audio, video, lighting, everything's synced, time code, rehearsed for weeks, and it's all done, and it's a choreographed show, and there's no deviating from the time code. It's everybody knows their spot. The dancers know where to be when they need to be there. So there's two spectrums of that in the event industry, as in concerts, where it's totally fly by the seat of your pants, and then there's very time code. Most A-level, if you go to a concert and the lights are very in sync in the video, that's all time code.
Got it.
And if you,
So I'm curious, what's the difference then, or I guess maybe what do you enjoy more? Because one sounds like it could be a total mess.
right, right.
If someone's inexperienced, and then the other side sounds like if it's, choreographed and synced up perfectly, that sounds like it probably has a higher likelihood to look really pretty.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So I think as a fun, creative side, I like, punting the show. I like designing it. I like kind of on the fly, but as in like if you want to walk away with like your lifetime like achievement, like working with a A-level band and be able to like program and design and have that part of your like portfolio is pretty awesome. And
yeah. So let's get into weddings and wedding venues and even just kind of social events like this. Do you think that wedding venues and maybe the spaces that you've been to aren't really utilizing lighting to the correct capability that they could be?
Yes and no. I think it depends on the venue. There is a lot of venues that I've invested in it, and then there's a lot that they don't have the money. So if you kind of talk lighting, like if you Google wedding lighting, you're going to get cafe lighting. Like you're going to get string lighting. That's usually like a lot of what people think wedding lighting is. And most venues do have that in their facilities. Or it's goes to the DJ. Like they refer to the DJ as, okay, they bring the lighting and it's on a, stick of truss and they got a couple little movers and it's from that DJ booth. But to actually install and like have a lighting system, it's very expensive, or could be. And so I think there is venues that are up to date on that. But I'd say my local area, no, absolutely not. It's blank spaces with cafe lighting and the vendors bring in whatever you're going to do. So
do you think, so let's talk pricing really quick, because that was going to be my next question. Like, what is the investment like? If someone were to kind of give me maybe low, medium, high in terms of what someone could invest kind of on the low end of still doing a professional job, medium tier, and then like full-blown lighting.
All right. So let's just say, what an intelligent moving light is. Like, okay. So say like an average small,
and let's just define it for the audience, just in case they don't know. So what is that lighting? Is that?
It would be like you would say a mover, like it has either a beam or a wash fixture that has gobos or does it, and you control it with the board, and it has movement to it. And then you have like a par can LED par that is a standalone fixture that you can change the color in. So those are two different lightings. Like LED par, you could get one for bottom level $250 to $1,000 to $2,000. The low level mover that isn't going to break on you in the first couple of months is around $4,000 per fixture. So on a small level, if you just went with Lecos and pars, LED pars and stuff, you can get away with $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, depending on your power consumption in the building and kind of how many fixtures you went with. The middle range to actually be competitive in a really decent market, I would say $100K to $200K. And then if you had a $3 million building that you really wanted to go audio visual, you're in the couple million range easily before you even blink an eye. So that's kind of...
Yeah, that's really helpful in terms of a range. So I'm curious then, with a, let's say, couple $100,000 lighting budget, what are people doing? Like, what is the venue going to look like? And it's hard to do this because, even if someone's watching on YouTube, we're not going to be able to show it. But like, what is it like before having lighting, and then what does it look like after?
So let's do it like under $5,000 budget. Super simple. So you already have cafe lighting in the building. So, and the problem with cafe lighting is,
cafe lighting, we're talking market lighting, right? Like
like string lighting, market lighting. The problem with that and videographers and photographers hate so much is you're around 2K. Like, or if you talk, I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, Kelvin, like it's the lighting temperature, like gauge or whatever. You're around like 2000 Kelvin.
Yes.
Very yellow. Horrible for photography, videography, anything in that, but it looks decent to the naked eye, and it gives you that like mood lighting. So you want to be really around like 5 to 7 Kelvin for the cameras, for anybody without bringing external lighting into the building. So you could get away with, $250, LED pars and some Lecos that are probably you can pick up for $400 and a small little switcher for under $5,000 and have 10 lights in your building. Now you could have, okay, this is where the cake area is. This is where the stage is at. This is the dance. This is that. You're not really going to have a lot of table lighting, but you could do a table wash, like a room wash. So yeah, you can definitely on a small level, like be able to, enhance your lighting production. Usually as a videographer, you usually ask the couple, hey, can I bring in some lights on stands? Because, once we get into the dances and stuff, it's very dark, so, but you can do that as a venue at a really cheap, cost. It's not, this isn't the, if you see pictures behind me, like this is like the next level, just to get by and enhance the camera experience and, just a small experience at the venue, you can do it, under $5,000 easily.
Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you.
Yeah, I was actually just looking on my remote for my camera light that I'm using in here, and I'm at about 5,000 Kelvin. Yeah, just to kind of illuminate, because unless that, it's just basically the can lights right here, and so that makes so much sense. So I'm curious, Michael, if a venue owner is listening to this right now and they're like, man, I got to invest in some lighting here. Would you say it's better to go out and learn some of this, or even just contact a lighting person like yourself and invest in the gear? Or would it make more sense to partner with a vendor? Maybe it is the DJ, or maybe it is some, a lighting specialist in the area who's just going to bring it in whenever the client actually wants it.
Both. Let's talk small scale venue. Let's say you do most of your ceremony like a barn. I did a lot of weddings in Colorado. So most of the ceremonies are outside. They go inside for more of a barn setting, atmosphere. So I would say in that category, the one thing is kind of like, the website we were talking earlier, like anything like marketing, like sometimes you're going to spend more time and energy trying to learn this than it's worth. Also, you're going to go down some rabbit holes. Like if you start going on Amazon and start buying that, you're going to waste your time on buying certain lighting because they don't offer anything in the theatrical realm. You have to go to actual lighting companies or retailers that specialize in this type of lighting, because it does matter. The cheaper the lighting, the more it flickers and cameras, and you need the luminance of the LED does matter. So we won't go down that road. But anyways, so I would say if you are a venue owner, there's some DJs that really have their stuff together. They really have, done the research. They have a good lighting rig and they're local, whatever. Or there's a local, smaller, like mom and pop lighting company within the region that you can bring in for special events. If you're in that price range, the whole point is to kind of if you'd invested your time and energy into this, it's a upcharge to your venue. It's adding value to your actual venue. And so, because the problem is if you were to expand and someone, does okay, I love your venue and I have a budget. Well, sometimes it takes a long time to set up a lot of lighting. It's not something you can set up that morning. You can, but you have to have an army of people to do it. Like in a concert, for example, we started 7 a.m. We have 6 techs plus another 15, 20 guys that are labor that get this up in 4 hours. So, and that's kind of a thing too, is if you have the night before, that works out. But if you're trying to do if you have back to back Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the Saturday wedding wants to bring in this whole thing of lighting, well, they're going to come in at 2 a.m. It just depends. So, but for uplighting and, you know, a little bit of like room aesthetic lighting from trusses, like, yeah, you could do that the day of. And a vendor within your market that has that ability, like, absolutely, it's something you do not have to go out and get invested in. You just have to have the right people. But I definitely would recommend, before you go invest in lighting, like, consult with somebody that actually has the knowledge, or find a company within your area that, you know, you can kind of, they can go look at your venue, go look at your space, and kind of get you on the right direction and path.
So I have a question about that. And just to kind of help people, if they're going to take that step, what are just you being their kind of expert guide right now? They're listening to this podcast. They're going to go out and hire somebody or ask someone to tour their space. What's kind of a minimum, or what are maybe the question is like, what are some questions that they should be asking that tech just to make sure they're on the right path towards getting their venue set up correctly?
So let's just start from the basics of power. Like, you know, like, is my venue actually set up to have more than, you know, because you have because most venues are either 20 amps or like 20 amp breakers or 15 amp, like houses, depending on the venue. Well, you know, let's just say basic level of a par, like LED pars, 110 watts. Well, you can only fit comfortably 6 to 7 on a, you know, 20 amp service. So that's your first question to anybody is like, do you have a breaker system? You have 3-phase. I don't know if that's going down another rabbit. 3-phase power, like
3-phase, yeah, versus 2-phase. Yeah, totally.
You know, like you have a 100 amp service, 200 amp service, or 400 amp service. Like, that was your first question. Like, what can I actually do in this space? And the cool thing with like a lot of this LED technology, a lot of it's battery powered now, which is kind of awesome. So even for a venue, you could go like buy, you know, 20 pre-powered, battery powered, you know, LED pars that you can lay out in your venue, and they last 12 hours, and you charge them the night before. Like, that's another option. So the first option, or the first thing I would tackle, is power. Okay, what is my venue set up for? What can I handle? You know, and if I did want to invest in lighting, like, what kind of service do I need to have installed by an electrician? So that's your first question. The second question is, can I hang anything from my roof? You know, like what beams, what pillars, you know, where can I actually hang lighting safely? Or you go the direction of ground support, like there's a ground, like, which would be a truss structure, or you know, lighting tree, and you can make those things look pretty if you decorate them, you know. And so those would be the first two questions I would kind of consider asking a professional is, you know, what can my venue actually do? Like, what is the possibilities here? And then from there, understand, you know, like, you know, control, like where can you set up control at? Where can you set up actually, you know, wiring? Which way can you actually wire to make it look pretty? Because the whole thing is you want it to look as like it's not there. You want it to be a very like second. You don't want to walk in a room and it's just boom, like you see all this light. We had one time I was in a corporate client, and we were halfway through load in, and it was all ground support in this ballroom. And she walks in and goes, "No, this isn't going to happen today. Like, you have to get rid of all this. Nothing's turned on yet. The room's not dark. They can't see the light." And she's just like, "No, like, my boss is going to come in and like freak out." And we took away $20,000 in lighting, and they paid for it. And the show went on. It was awesome, but it was just a sore thumb. It was like, this can't be here. Like, and so until the lights go down and they see it, you also have to hide it as best as you can.
Got it, because it looks super, like, the production side of it, people can see until it, okay, so with this, and kind of as part of this, do you have would you recommend, and let's just say budget's always a factor, but let's say someone is building a brand new building, venue, whatever, and they're going out and getting a loan, and they're putting in different budgets for things. Would you advise them to build it with, you know, preparation or setup for lighting from the get-go? Or do you feel like it's a phased thing where you can build it with kind of the structures, and then 2 or 3 years down the road, then add some professional lighting?
No, absolutely. If you have the budget and the ability to implement these systems, the AV systems, even sound, audio, video, all of it in the beginning of your stages of opening the venue, absolutely, because that's when it's the cheapest. that's when you can run the right wiring that has to be done in the building. You can have certified electricians come in and put the right power systems in place. You could also run, like, say you have like your control booth somewhere in an office. You can run your data cable, your power cable, all that through the ducts, all that through hidden like places that you can't, that's a lot harder to do after the fact. So absolutely, if this is a conversation that a venue owner might have in the future, do it in the beginning. It'll save you a lot of time, effort, and cost. Even if you don't implement the systems, you're ready when it does happen to install it. So
and it probably would make your venue more valuable if you're ever planning to sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you have a lot of flexibility. That makes sense. So let me ask you one more thing. Are you concerned at all with any of the tech going out of not out of style, but like getting old? For example, if someone puts in speakers, lighting, things like that, like how fast does this technology change and become more modern?
In the wedding space, I'm not concerned, just because it's probably the last of the industries to be in the tech realm. Like, churches were there, now churches have got up there. So if you spend $500,000 on a system or $1 million, that's going to last you a good 10 years in this market. Because you're not, it depends on your market. It depends on, like, if you're doing corporate, if you have really high end corporate clients coming through your building, that's a different story. The video wall does matter. And at that point, you might not want to invest in video wall because the turnaround of video wall is such a high demand. You might just always rent it. You pretty much have the facility to hang it, the power to do it, but you don't invest in that initial investment because it turns around. But if you were just doing weddings and smaller corporate stuff, your sound and lighting is going to last for quite a while on the fact that, it's not going to turn around that fast. But video is the only thing that I would say is video wall does get out of date quick just because the luminance and all that. So.
Well, and does it go out of date, or does the tech break? Like, is there any?
Yeah, the tech just gets better. Like, it's like a TV. Like, how often are you going to like replace your TV? They're getting better like every year. Like, so I mean, I'm pretty. If you see me, I'm pretty bad. Like, I need the new monitor. I have 3 monitors that way. Like, it's like I don't need a new monitor, but I want it because it's so much better. But is it? So
yeah.
Kind of the
Well, it's like that. It's like the iPhones. It's like anything. Like the tech is moving faster and faster, 100%. But that makes a lot of sense. So I want to go back and do something, because I thought that I loved this, and I feel like someone listening might take a lot of value from it. Could we build in our minds kind of a package of lighting? Let's say there's a space. Let's say it does have the 3-phase power. Let's say that, you do the power and you are able to hang things from the ceilings. What is kind of a base package? Let's say our budget is around $100,000 for lighting. What are we putting? You mentioned wash lighting. Kind of give us a bit of a kit how you maybe would put something together.
Okay, so you said $100K is our budget. Okay, so I would probably go.
Got to give you a challenge. You can't do the $500,000 budget. That'd be too easy, right?
No. I would go with like 20 spot movers. That gives you gobos. It gives you attributes. It gives you ability. And I would hang those symmetrical in the room. Each side just evenly, so you have the ability to change. And then so that's 20 of those. So you're looking at probably from 50 to 70. Let's just say 50,000. We're gonna go the cheaper side of it. We're gonna get them used. We're gonna go 2,500 a unit. And then we're going to go another 10 wash fixtures to kind of, fill in the gaps between those.
And what's going to go?
What's the wash is the same thing as like a spot, but it's just like a LED wash, like a par, but it can move. Like it's we call them a wash fixture. So, cause you want them to all like be, you don't have to have them. You can even go cheaper. So let's just go 10 of those. And then we're going to do some uplighting pars on the ground. And then we're going to go pretty cheap on the console. We're going to go a basic like Campsys or an older console for 4,000, 6,000. And then the cabling will get us there. So that's kind of depending on if we can hang straight from the ceiling. Like, we're not bringing in extra trusses, but trusses aren't very expensive. They're 500 a stick of 10-foot stick of truss. We can get them in black, which would be nice, but you kind of want to hang them in, if you can hang them into the rafters where it's not so like, trusses are kind of a sore eye. So that's kind of, I would go with the 30 light system, like 30 lights in your building with up and down. And you can do that for $100K easily.
So you have the movers maybe for the dance floor. Am I kind of hearing correctly?
Well, your day would consist of, your walk-in look, your dinner look, your toast look, your, speaking when people are speaking out, your dance look, and then the straight out nightclub. So, like you have that ability to change your room within the night. And you can, with the animated systems that there's out there, it's literally like whoever your planner is for the day of the DJ, this is the 6 looks. And then we build 20 more on top of that if you move the room around. And so it's really like, that's why you want the movers in that aspect. Cause, a stagnant, like regular par light that isn't moving, you have to focus it. So you have to go up there and move it, or you have to always put everything in the same spot. So that's where like the moving lights, change the ability to change your room within minutes.
You mentioned a control panel and you said, we could get that used. Are these things that you can get used or secondhand?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many lighting companies that are selling their older gear, or people trying to sell them, or they're just the lower end of the spectrum of a lighting console. Lighting consoles go from $2,000 to $90,000, depending on what brand you get and what the function is and how many. So then it also matters how many universes you have. So we won't go into that. That's a whole so yeah.
We'll do a second episode that's super technical.
Right.
So, or they can just call you, right?
Right. They can just call you.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it's a brand new association just for venue owners and operators that we launched last year. It's been growing quickly since then, and we would love to offer an invitation to you to be a part of it. WEVA is an association that is purpose-built for venue owners and operators to provide community, education, and networking opportunities just for our industry. We have a number of different resources, including networking, co-working events, local meetups, and all sorts of different things. We will be having a large yearly event as well. We would love to have you part of the community, so please consider joining. We do have a link in the description below, or we will be linking it wherever you're listening to this. So please click on the link, check it out, and we would love to see you inside of WEVA.
One more question about that. So if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, man, this is fascinating. I've got the budget. I think I've got, I can hang some stuff up, and I've got the power for it. Great. Do you have to be educated and like adept at operating this thing? Or once you get it all set up, it's fairly straightforward?
So yes and no. Like say my company, or I contract through another company to come out and install it all. We take care of it all. We'll program pages of looks. This is, you're going to have, so many a queue list or whatever. This is what you can adapt. This is what you can change. And we'll train someone on site, because it is kind of expensive to, have a guy there all the time. Or you have a DJ that's local there, that's kind of their gig. They run the lights and do their DJ. And so once it's kind of the system's implemented and programmed, it's just troubleshooting from there. And so as a venue owner, you have to have the basic knowledge that is trained to you by the company that installs it. But from there, you really don't have to learn how to be a programmer. You just have to learn how to turn everything on and turn everything off. But also, if something does stick, like a lighting does break or whatever, how to breaker it off, or how to reset the light. Those are the basic knowledges that you'll have to learn from someone that trains you to do it. But you don't have to go learn how to be a lighting guy.
Got it. That's probably good to hear. If you're thinking of going down this path. This is super interesting. I have one last question, and then I want to ask you a little bit about kind of the direction you're going. And I know you want to kind of foray into menu management, especially with all of the experience you have. But I'm curious if someone, again, is interested in doing this, or they're interested in adding this to a current build. They're maybe speccing out something, or maybe they're buying a building and it has some of this stuff. What is it better to go to a lighting guy or a company and say, hey, look, I've got about $100,000. I listened to this podcast. This guy named Michael, he told me, I have $100,000 or I have $200,000. What can we do? Or do you ask them to come into the space, kind of say, give me your low, medium, high, and then see what they say?
A little bit of both. Like you definitely want to, like, it's like buying anything, buying a home. Like you want to do your research. You want to, just like anybody, like wedding venue shopping, you want to kind of do your research. You want to kind of know what you're looking at. And kind of the goal of our company is kind of to be that middle ground. Like, well, we know what they're talking about. If somebody does quote you this, well, I know what fixtures they're talking about, because a lot of people would be like, well, this is just lighting. Here's 100,000 of lighting. Well, that's a lot. There's a lot of differences in that. It's like almost like a florist being like, here's your floral package, and this is the price. Well, I want to know what flowers are in that package. Mm-hmm. So you've got to kind of like spend a little bit of education to know what you're doing. You can't just expect someone that's like, I can come in and install this to do it, especially when you're spending that amount of money. You definitely want to do your research. You want to know what they're actually putting in your building. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answers that.
No, it totally does. It totally does. So tell me kind of what's the next stage for you guys? I know you mentioned right before we got on, you're looking to get into management. Why does this make sense for you guys?
Just because like, I don't have the money to go out and like start a production company tomorrow. Like it's millions of dollars, and I'm kind of out of that space as in like where I want to go in life. Like I like to design, like I like to be a part of event space and corporate and weddings and all that. And I feel like I have so much knowledge in that. And, I've been a PM for lots of productions, lots of events. But, I'm a dude, nobody wants a dude to run the show, like that's why wedding planners are usually females, and they're awesome at it. And they're, the face of the company. And so hopefully someday we will, be connected with something like that. But I definitely like as a company, we want to have the ability to look outside the box, like to really know what the client or the couple are looking for in their wedding day. And it might not be lighting, but you have to be able to like understand the whole like spectrum before you just start selling them on things that they have no idea what they want. So that's kind of the goal of the company is we provide a lot of services, but we also want to be kind of a consultant in the event space to, if somebody does come to them, we're like, you can also turn your event space into something more than just a wedding venue on the off days, on the ability that you do have the ability to, I don't know what I'm looking for, but look inside the box with a client.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like you could also take your space and turn it into something that may be a great space for corporate. And previously you couldn't do that because you didn't have the AV, but now you can activate the space. And now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have the opportunity to host corporate because you do have that AV.
Well, and you've had on a few websites or a few of your podcasts you've had where they've talking about doing events, marketing events within the venue. Well, when you're already set up, every open house is a marketing event.
Yeah.
Now you have the lights on, you have the video on, you have the music playing, you have that ambiance set. The bride and groom can actually dream of that space now. Where when it's a blank canvas, there's a lot that they have to think about to imagine what this room could be.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. I'm glad you said that, because I do think when people take couples for tours of their property, they're asking their client to dream with them, to have an imagination around, hey, and this is how it could be, and that. And oftentimes the venue won't be fully set up, maybe partially set up, but it won't be fully set up. Lighting won't be on. It is lacking the people, obviously. And so having a lighting setup and being able to kind of show them that, and adding in music and some of those different things, is a way to sell the space in a much more enhanced way than just kind of, hey, here it is,
So I'm kind of in control. Like I like to be in control of so we were doing streaming. The biggest challenge we had also was audio through the DJ or this or that, or we couldn't control the internet through the venue. And they said, oh no, it's good to go. And then there's a firewall that they didn't tell us about. So we're very much now in we like to be in control over the whole production, because it is at the end of the day, like if someone hires me or hires a venue, you're the one that they blame for everything.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I think there's some amazing vendor relations with venues. And if you have those set up and you have the same vendors, that is amazing. But you're also relying on vendors for a lot of what you're doing. and you get pretty much the bad review when it all goes down. So the more you have control over these spaces, I think as a product, it's the more marketing you're doing, and everybody that enters that room, that's marketing to them in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
there's one more element of this that I think is important, and you touched on it: the capability to sell what you have. Because it sounds like, from what you said earlier, a client may not know when looking at a space that it has $100,000 or $200,000 worth of lighting. They just know it looks amazing.
Amazing.
And so you have to train the salespeople, you have to train the venue, or you have to sell it in such a way that you're communicating, hey, this is without this $200,000, this is with it.
So let me tell a backstory. I almost went into wedding lighting in like 2010. I've done probably every friend of mine's wedding, like their lighting, and I've been in their weddings. So that's it. So my friend, they were getting married in San Diego at the U.S. Grant. Definitely had a budget for a wedding. And I talked to him like a couple months before the wedding. I was like, what are you doing for lighting? And they're like, the planner said the DJ's got to cover, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So 3 weeks before the wedding, or like somewhere in that ballpark, she sees a video of the venue with lighting. She's like, Mikey, like, how do I do this? Like, I talked to the planner, like the DJ doesn't have this. Like, I'm like, oh God, like I knew this was coming. You know, it's a blank white room, you know? And so, all right. So I went to my company. All right, what deal can I get? They're like, all right, here's, $10,000 package for $2,500 or whatever. But we had to truck it ourselves. Like, it was her dad's horse trailer, whatever. So luckily we got in the building like Thursday, and the wedding was Saturday, and her uncle was helping me set up. I spent like 3 days in the building. Wedding happens. Long story short, they had a band, so that was like another thing that the lighting definitely helped. All anybody could talk about was the lighting. Like, it was like, they walked through that experience. Like, they don't know what happened. They don't know why the lighting was there. They just, like, at the end of it, they're like, this wedding was amazing. And it could have still been amazing without it, but it was just like, definitely like, it's kind of like when, CarPlay in your car, instead of Bluetooth, it was like, or if you're trying to sell a house, you're putting furniture in it before you sell it. It's just, they don't really realize that that's that atmosphere, but it creates atmosphere is what you're really creating.
Yeah.
With audio, visual, and all that.
That's a great story. And I think the analogies you use perfectly with like the staging for houses, or you could just show the house, hey, this is the empty room. But,
So the problem with not why I didn't go into that space at that time was I had a few referrals from that, and I had some consultations. And the problem is you're the last one on the list, kind of like videography. There's a list, and by the time they get to you, there's no budget. And then when you're like, oh, this is, this is minimum couple $1,000, they're like, oh, okay, we're out of budget. And so that, it's kind of where I was like, okay, I'm not going to go down this road. And so I didn't, but that was kind of the hard part of like trying to start as like that in the wedding industry.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see what you guys do in the future, and especially with your insight and knowledge into this. It's really something that can make venue spaces especially really special. And so if a venue owner is listening to this right now and they want to reach out to you and talk to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
We're working on our website, Instagram, or we put my phone number down there. That's probably the best two ways at this point. Like I said, we have a consultation for a website. We're kind of building that right now. So the Instagram is probably the best way, but that's more of our videography side of things. So if you look on there, you're not going to see much lighting, but probably the best
still a way to get a hold of you. We'll put that information in the description. And this has been great, Michael. Thanks so much for
coming. That's been awesome.
Hey there, friends. Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events Management Services. Common Sense Events is my company, and we professionally manage and operate venues all across the United States. And we would love to have the opportunity to chat about your venue if management would be the right solution for you. This is a great opportunity for people who are looking to maybe get out of the industry, or maybe they want to keep their property, but they don't want to sell it, but they still want to make money from it. Our team comes in and we do everything from the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire a local team. We take care of the taxes. We pay them. We keep them accountable. We take care of all the management. We do all the sales process. We do all the operations, everything from setting up to tearing down tables and chairs, and everything that it takes to run an incredible wedding. The best part about this all, it is not super expensive. We actually have a lot of these agreements set up as management contracts where there's a revenue share. And so it is really a awesome and frequently affordable way to work with an outsourced management company so that your venue stays under your brand name, but you have a custom venue management solution for you so you don't have to be working 80 hours a week. If this sounds appealing to you, please send us a message using the link in the description of this video or podcast. You could also send us an email at venues@cseventservices.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you and see if there's a way that we could partner with you and serve you.